Hi, I'm Wayne Lack and this is question 5 of June 2013 AQA Core 3 paper. According to my examiner's reports, a lot of people got part A wrong, some people might have got part B wrong. Again, most people knew how to do this question, a few arithmetic mistakes rather than anything major, but we're going to go through the question anyway, all the way through, so let's get on with question 5 and turn to the whiteboard. Okay, so question 5 here, it's actually A and B because it's going to take up quite a bit of room. I'm doing A on this whiteboard and then I'll do B in the next chart. So A, the diagram shows y equals the square root of 27 plus x cubed, and there it is, that's a nice drawing of it. It's between 0 and 4, root 27 there. So the area between this x equals 0 and x equals 4 is given by the integral between 4 and 0 of our y here, this root 27 plus x cubed by dx. Use the mid-ordinate rule with 5 strips to find an estimate to 3 significant figures. Okay, so that's part A. Let's have a look at it. First thing to do is, it's told us to use the mid-ordinate rule. So we need to use the mid-ordinate rule, so make sure you select the right rule. H, lots of y half plus y 3 over 2, and it's every half all the way up to yn minus half, where h equals b minus a over n, and it shows you a picture at the beginning of an integral with b at the top and a at the bottom. So our first step for all of these, the trapezium rule and everything, but we're doing the mid-ordinate, so it's the same rule for all of them. I'd work out your h first, that would be a good idea. So b minus a over n, in this case is 4, this top number, minus 0, I can do that in my head, that one. 4 minus 0 over n, where n is the number of strips, not the number of ordinates, and it tells you in the question with 5 strips. So it's 4 over 5, and that will be your h right at the start of this final equation. So you can either leave it as 4/5 or 0.8, I'm going to put it as 0.8, 4/5 would also work, it's equivalent. Now comes the question of what is our y half, our y 3 over 2 and so on. So to get our various y values we need to put in various x values into this top equation to get the y value. So first we need to decide what x values to put in before we can work out our y values. Now we're doing it between, I'm zooming in here, between 0 and 4, that's zooming in on this bit, that's what we're integrating between 0 and 4. But it wants it with 5 strips, okay, not 5 ordinates, so it's not 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ordinates, it's 5 strips. So it actually goes up in 0.8, which is not what you'd probably first imagine, so just make sure to read these sorts of questions carefully. So it's actually like this, is our various points. And that would be our x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x6 to put into here. But that would give us, in return, y1, y2, y3, y4, y5, y6. And we want y half, y3 over 2. So rather than doing like the normal things that you did in AS and in the trapezium rule, we actually want halfway between the values we've just worked out. So that will give us x half, x3 over 2, which in turn will give us y half, y3 over 2. So essentially here is 0.4, here is 1.2, it's the middle points of all of these points. So here is exactly 2, so 2.0, but exactly 2. Here is 2.8, and here is 3.6. So our y half is our x half, which is 0.4, so we put it in here, so we'll have the square root of 27 plus 0.4 cubed, and that will give you a y value, and that's what we put in our final equation, then y3 over 2, and so on and so on and so on. So let's have a look at what all of these values are. I put them in my calculator a minute ago, you can do the same thing. So if we put x equals 0.4 into square root of 27 plus x cubed, we get 5.20231. Now you'll notice I'm using more significant figures than what we want. We want 3 significant figures at the end, And here I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm being more precise and I'll round at the end. Because if you use 3 significant figures throughout, when you add them up and then when you times it by 0.8 at the end, you might actually be slightly off the answer. So you do it to more significant figures than you want and then round it at the end. So 5 point, I'll put this here. We've got 5.35985 if we were to put 1.2 into that equation. 5.9161 if we were to put 2 into that equation. 6.9966 if we were to put 2.8 into the equation, and 8.5823 if we were to put 3.6 into the equation. So I've got 0.8 times the sum of all of these things, and that will quite simply give you an answer, and that answer happens to be 25.6. You can do that on your calculator if you want, but the important thing is you know how to do it. Now this was worth 4 marks, this part A alone was worth 4 marks. Things to trip up on then. Obviously if you select the wrong formula, you're going to go completely wrong. So do make sure you read the right formula. It sounds silly to say, but you know, they're right on top of the Simpsons rule and the trapezium rule. Just make sure you read the right thing. 5 strips, not 5 ordinates, don't get it mixed up, because it would have made more sense if it went 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, rather than going up in 0.8s. Arithmetic mistakes, just be careful when you type it into your calculator, and do it to more significant figures than you need. It may well not affect your final answer, but the exam wants to see that you're aware that it could, and so you're doing it as accurately as you can. And there you go, 25.6 is to 3 significant figures. Don't confuse it with 3 decimal places, is another point. And I think that's about it. There's a part B, so we'll get onto that now. Let's go on to the other board. So, part B then. With aid of a diagram, explain whether the mid-ordinate rule gives an under or an over estimate to the area. Now those aren't the exact words of the Core 3 paper, but they're pretty similar. There's nothing in the Core 3 paper that masks it up to be anything it isn't, so I simplified the words slightly there. So with aid of a diagram, that should be underlined, whether in your brain or if you actually want to underline it, with aid of a diagram. Now in the examiner's report they said this is why a lot of people lost the marks, because without the aid of a diagram you don't get the second mark. You can't just say if it's under or over and get the mark. You need the diagram and then whether it's an under or over estimate to get the 2 marks. There's 2 marks available in this. So with the aid of a diagram, firstly we have to understand sort of what the mid-ordinate rule is actually doing. Now in the exam paper the actual graph was drawn just before part A, so a reminder of what that sort of looks like from here, where we're actually applying the mid-ordinate rule. It's shot up like this if you remember. So what are we doing with the mid-ordinate rule? Well, the actual ordinate that we're taking, so this is y half, I believe it was 0.4 in our first one, but the mid-ordinate part that we're actually taking sort of takes a rectangle about that point, like this. Okay, so you can already see that's just going to be an estimate. It's not going to be perfect, because on this side of the half the graph's increasing, so it goes above the line of the cuboid or the rectangle, but on this side the graph is still decreasing, so it goes across like that and then down, so it's going over it a bit here. Now we can see it's increasing quite sharply. It's increasing ever more sharply, so as you go further across, if you've got this part, then this part is going to become decreasingly less compared to the amount of area it's missing out here. And so overall it's going to be an underestimate. You can't just explain the underestimate in words. You have to have had some sort of drawing. You don't have to draw it twice at 2 different points. You just have to draw it here to sort of explain what it's doing. It's drawing a rectangle about the mid-ordinate point, so that would actually be the middle of the rectangle. That point, the mid-ordinate would divide it into 2 equal rectangles, and here it's under and here it's over, and as it gets sharper and sharper and sharper you should be able to see overall it's going to be an underestimate between 0 and 4. So there was only 2 marks available for that, but you needed that drawing. So make sure you read the question properly, and if it says with the aid of a diagram, it's not saying it for a joke, it needs a diagram. Hopefully this helped a little bit. This is question 5, let's get on to question 6.